They need to be prepared for a lot of Dallas sports fans to side with the Stars, even if the Stars are in the wrong.
All right, guys, now we get into the other side of the big news of the last 24 to 48 hours. This one is not as exciting, happy, rosy-cheeked as Thomas Harley's contract extension. There are three pillars of this, all interconnected. Yesterday, in the Dallas Morning News, great piece by Brad Townsend and Leah Asimakopoulos, our colleague who covers the Stars, and Brad who covers the Mavericks. And then there was another corresponding piece, which we'll get to, and then a follow-up overnight and this morning. The Dallas Mavericks ownership, in conjunction with the city of Dallas, has placed a lawsuit in Texas business court against the Dallas Stars ownership. And that's part one. We'll get into that. Part two is the Stars yesterday, a report from the Dallas Morning News that the Stars are considering a $1 billion arena in Plano at the Shops at Willow Bend Mall site. And then part three is, in response, the Dallas Stars have filed a countersuit against the Mavericks late last night to, quote, prevent the Mavericks' attempted hostile takeover. Okay, that's a lot. We're going to do this segment with Luds and Sean, and then
Not Luds. You and Sean are doing this segment.
Bobby Karalla from the Mavs DLLS Mavs show is going to join us to give us the Mavs perspective as well on this, because this is going to be an ongoing story. And Sean, let's start with the obvious.
Mm-hmm.
This relationship has never been perfect, the Stars and the Mavs, for cohabitants of the American Airlines Center and business partners as operations. But there always was a general sense of we're neighbors, we have to get along and make this work for the betterment of both franchises. That seems to have changed with the ownership change of the Mavericks when the Sands Corporation, run by the Adelsons and Dumont family, bought the franchise from Mark Cuban, and now it seems to have taken a very different tenor between the Mavs and the Stars here in Dallas.
Yeah, and I think it's important to establish when it comes to the Cuban era of running the Mavericks and everything like that. And he's still and our Mavs show can obviously talk way more about that, and we all saw with that blockbuster trade last year that no one will ever really forget. But there was at least an understanding and they didn't necessarily like each other, right? It's not that they were like singing Kumbaya together, but they at least had a healthy respect for each other in the building, right? I think both of them wanted to be the number one tenant in the building, so there was always a little bit of that kind of hidden animosity between ownership groups of prime dates versus that and everything. But there was at least hey, we need to work together on this. And since the ownership change, the vibe towards the Stars from the Mavericks, from their roommate in the building, has been one of, we're here to buy. And correct me if I'm wrong, and Bobby can correct me wrong if I'm on the next statement, but it's definitely the group that bought the Mavericks. There's way more of this is not we bought this to build the best basketball team. Like, they want to win it. They want to win, right? They'll tell you that. That's what they want to win. And I'm not saying that they don't want to winning basketball, but they brought the Mavericks as more of this is a brand. This is a vessel to some sweet gambling money when it gets legalized in the state of Texas. And we see all of those opportunities. If the Stars are going to get in our way for some of this, which sound based off reporting that Leah and others did, and that is really well done, this is definitely that seems to be the belief. So it gets us back to this point, Owen, where kind of the craziest part to me is one of the biggest crux parts is the Mavs are suing the Stars under, it's from a I want to say this correctly. I believe it is from a charter agreement or whatever it is, a franchise agreement.
Franchise agreement, yes.
Yeah, where the Stars need to have their headquarters within Dallas city limits. Now,
corporate and executive headquarters.
Corporate headquarters. Corporate headquarters is the rule. Now, Luds, to bring Luds into the conversation real quick, before the Stars were in Frisco, where were their headquarters before Frisco? Do you remember?
Do you remember where they were? Where do you know where the business offices were when you were around the time you retired?
They were in our room. They were in I retired. Were they still at Valley Ranch?
Because they were in
I think
Frisco. They
weren't
moved to
still
Frisco in
upstairs?
2003.
No, they were still at Valley Ranch. They were upstairs there.
What city is Valley Ranch in? Does anyone know? Anyone know for the group?
Las Colinas.
I believe it's
No, actually, no. I think it's Capel.
Either way, is that city?
It's
Dallas?
not Dallas.
No.
That's the point. Yeah, no.
My point
so
here is,
you weren't quizzing me. You were just trying to make a point. Okay.
yeah, I'm trying to make my point here. I'm not quizzing Luds. My point is that the Stars. There was an agreement. There's this agreement that is in legal writing, and that's in the city of Dallas has sided with the Mavericks as they went into this. Oh my God, the Stars! You're supposed to have your corporate offices in Dallas, and you haven't done this. And the simple question, not the legal question, is this hasn't been a big deal for the Stars have been here since '93, and we haven't had a big deal about the corporate office not being in the city of Dallas. And so now it is now when all of a sudden this arena stuff and everything like that, when all this arena stuff and everything comes into play, all of a sudden now we're going to go try to find the one rule. Like it's almost one of those spots of like, this is, and I talked to, once again, because I want to preface everything with, I have not spoken to the Stars or the Mavericks on this. Every single person with both organizations is being very stingy right now of, hey, it's a lawsuit, we can't talk, lawyers can't speak. So I did go, like, I spoke to some other lawyers over the past couple days about this, and one of them I spoke to a lawyer who does corporate law, and they said one of the things that probably happened was, they said if they were to reverse engineer it, and be clear, I want to be clear, this is just what another lawyer told me might have happened, not actually happened, not for sure. I'm just covering my own butt on legalese here.
It's
okay,
speculation at best.
Yeah. But there's probably a world where when the Adelsons bought the team, they went and had their lawyers say, okay, I need you to go find everything you can for me on the Stars. Find everything you have on them so I have that in my file for when I need it. And when they went through and they found this charter and this agreement and they saw that line, they're like, okay, here's this line. We can use this when we need it. And a year ago, they used it to seize half of the Stars' half of the arena operations. And now yesterday they used it to file a lawsuit. And it's a very petty way of going about it. And it's honestly,
it feels like it's a technicality, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Please welcome in from the DLLS Mavs podcast, the hosts, our content boss, Bobby Karalla. Bobby, it's great to have you. You dressed appropriately for our show today.
I'm already tipping my hand to whose side I'm on here.
I think so. Well, we're both wearing green, and I don't think that's by accident. But Sean, right before the break, was saying something very interesting that we want to get into. So let's talk about, we already in our previous segment talked about the lawsuit specifics, the arena renovation issues, the legal, I don't want to call it a loophole, the legal technicality that has led to this lawsuit, then the Stars countersuit, and the discussion of where this could all go, including both teams not playing in Dallas, which would probably be an absolute detriment. And that's where it leads us to this conversation. The city of Dallas chose to side with the Dallas Mavericks in this lawsuit against the Dallas Stars in this particular instance. And there's some claims within their suit which also say that the Stars have not been negotiating in good faith over arena renovations for the future lease potentially, and that it's been hard for them to actually be able to make contact and continue bringing them back to the table, that there's been a pretty seismic divide. And I started to think the other day, why did the city side with the Mavs and not the Stars? Now, again, this is going on in my head, and as Sean talked about earlier, this is a bit of my own speculation. I'm not privy to the insides of this conversation and everything. I have a hunch, and I'm a big hockey guy, but I have a hunch that because Cuban already wanted to move to he wanted to build an arena before he sold the team. The Adelson family and Dumont have clearly said, we're leaving. So they're planning on going. They tried to already look at a site in Irving, and it didn't seem like that fell through or whatever. But all that being said, I think the city of Dallas is very worried about losing the Mavericks from being a Dallas franchise.
Yes.
And I think that they're worried so much that they would possibly be willing to, again, this is just my thought, be willing to give up the Dallas Stars in Dallas, Frisco, McKinney, Plano, Arlington, wherever, in order to make sure they don't lose the Mavericks. And I think that's my hunch. Does that hold any water to you at all?
I think so. Now, I want to preface all this by saying I'm not a lawyer. I'm just kind of a dummy.
Neither am I.
Yeah, I'm just.
I said that 4 times in our last segment. I'm not a lawyer.
Allegedly, I agree.
Yes.
But I think there's a couple different factors in play here. One, I believe the Mavericks want to own their own arena, and that means
full control,
fully or at least mostly financing it. They want it to be basketball specific, maybe host concerts there and stuff, but they want it to be their own arena, only basketball. And I think they would put a lot of their money behind it, whereas I'm not sure that would be in play for the Stars. So if it comes down to if the city is choosing between a team that wants a lot of financing or maybe a little or none, I think it's pretty clear who they're going to side with. The Stars are more transparently exploring leaving the city, whereas the Mavs have been pot committed to staying in Dallas from the very start. So I think the city wants to side with them there. But where I think, as someone that I love the Mavs, I worked for the Mavs for a decade. I'm still, despite everything that's gone on, this whole thing, I still, am a Mavs fan. Where this kind of rings hollow for me, and I think a lot of other Mavs fans, is the Mavs painting this lawsuit and framing it in such a way where they're doing this in order to make improvements to the arena. They want to improve the fan experience for the last 4 years.
Before building a brand new basketball-specific arena.
Despite for the last 3 or 4 years, very transparently saying, Rick Welts, who just took over as CEO last year, he has now been elevated to such a role where he doesn't even worry about day-to-day stuff in that building anymore. He is solely focused on building a new arena. So the Mavs have very blatantly out in the open said, we're not going to play here anymore. This place is dusty. It's old. We want to get out of here. By the way, legalize gambling, please. We really would appreciate that a whole lot. And so I just don't think if that is your cause, our cause is to make the final few years at American Airlines Center fun for fans. I don't think fans are going to throw their support behind that in the court of public opinion just because the Mavs are the louder parties here about getting out of that building.
Sean, what do you think changed in this relationship specifically between the Stars and the Mavericks, the ownership groups? We're not talking about the players, the fan base. There are a lot of crossover fans that are both Mavs fans and Stars fans and fans of all the other DFW teams, whether Cowboys, Rangers, etc. But there seems to have been a huge change from when the ownership transferred from Mark Cuban to the current Sands Corporation Group, Adelson, Dumont. And I think that what really stands out to me, I'm curious your thoughts on this, is that the principal focus is different. Mark Cuban cared about the Mavericks. Mark Cuban cared about the city of Dallas, and he cared about basketball. I don't know if he had any care about the Dallas Stars other than realizing that probably good for having your co-tenant, your business partner for the arena to at least be amicable. Yeah. I feel like that is not the same anymore with the new ownership group with the Mavs.
Well, the other thing, it's big, and I want to make sure I want to double. Once again, I'm not a lawyer, so I want to check on something. But
I think we've established that all three of us very much not lawyers.
Yeah, I don't know what modus operandi or habeas corpus or any of that stuff. I don't know what it is.
Did you watch Legally Blonde again?
I did.
Yeah.
The gambling thing is huge, right? We have to talk. We have to talk about the elephant in the room. The gambling thing is huge, and the fact is when it comes to think about how the current Mavs ownership group made their money. It is in casinos. It is in gambling. And when it comes to legalizing it in Texas, that is something that will benefit all sports teams. But I don't think they're interested in buying this team if there's not a real path to legalize
just
gambling.
To be NBA owners.
I do want to hop in. I don't want to cut you off, Sean, but Rick Welts recently, this video has not gotten a lot of traction. We talked about it a little bit on DLLS Mavs one day a couple weeks ago, but Rick Welts went on the Bloomberg podcast. And on that podcast, this was, again, a few weeks ago, for the first time, publicly said the Mavs actually do not hold the expectation anymore that gambling will be legal in time for them to build the arena. And so they're proceeding under the impression and under the mindset that this will not be a casino resort.
But it could still be a basketball-specific arena with entertainment and real estate ventures around.
Yes, and they want 50 acres.
Yeah,
and so that's a
and the
pretty
Stars
big
say they want 75 acres.
And that's even more. Yeah, Victory Park is about 70 acres.
Right.
So the Stars want even more than that. Yeah.
And the other thing that people have to remember, and I'm sure a lot of people know this, but it's something that the other funny thing about Texas legislature is it meets every other year. That is one of the most bizarre things about Texas legislature, and From when I worked in Austin, I would occasionally get the freelance gig having to help out at the Texas with the legislature session. And the reason it meets every other year, ironically, is because probably 60, 70, 80 years ago, it probably wasn't safe to travel. The state's so big. That's literally the reason that they meet every other year, is how it's been explained to me by actual government reporters who understand all of this.
Awesome.
So, so it's one of those where, like, it's not like other states where you pass, if something doesn't pass in 2025, you're like, all right, well, we'll get to it next year. If something doesn't pass in Texas, all of a sudden it's like, well, 2 years from now, we'll talk about it again, right? Like, that's one of the weirdest parts of this element when you talk about those timelines. The other thing that's just, I can't, once again, not a lawyer, can't help but wonder. So there was you talk about like teams working together and everything like that. I mean, a year ago, there was with the name of the coalition was I want to get the exact name of it. It's called the Sports Betting Alliance, was launched. Okay. It was from a bunch of professional sports teams in Texas working together to help organize and be part and help raise the profile to legalize sports betting in Texas. That group included the Houston Texans, the Dallas Cowboys, the Houston Rockets, the San Antonio Spurs, the Houston Astros, the Texas Rangers, and the Houston Dash. Ironically enough, there are two teams I did not mention there: the Dallas Stars and the Dallas Mavericks. From my understanding on things, is the Mavericks have been obviously they're very pro-gambling, but they are also very much, they have their own ideas of things. And the Stars also have their own ideas of things a little bit. So to see those two entities now talking about arenas and obviously gambling and everything like that, having various opinions and ways they go about each other, knowing that history and now seeing it kind of all come to the forefront, it makes a ton of sense. So, again, I'm not a lawyer, and I need Owen here to kind of help me get back on track, because
okay, that's right.
this is a loaded
So,
topic.
Bobby, final question here, because we are running out of time here. Yeah. We'll have a lot more as this develops. It feels very messy. It feels like the kind of divorce where the kids are going to probably have split custody and maybe not get along, even though you get double the presents and a couple extra holidays. Where do you think this goes over the next bit going forward? It feels like more than just a Dallas thing. It feels like a national thing now.
Yeah, I think messy is the right word for it. And Ryan, could you throw back up the comment that you just had up there a few seconds ago too about, so the Adelson family and Patrick Dumont, by extension, pretty understandably unpopular among the Mavs fan base right now. And, you know, this family is outsiders. They're not from Dallas. They're not from here. They're private equity. They run, you know, an international gambling enterprise. And they traded Luka. And really, they've done a lot of things here that have kind of ruffled the feathers of the fans, understandably. And so even if, you know, my snap reaction to this whole thing before I read the lawsuit or before I read the Dallas Morning News expose, all this stuff, my snap reaction was, even if the Mavericks are right, I still don't know if I care that much. You know, like, I don't necessarily think that the Mavericks ownership group has done enough, you know, to sow trust and to, you know, really build goodwill with the fans. And so if you are going to create a house divided, then I think they need to be prepared, you know, just because of optics alone, they need to be prepared for a lot of Dallas sports fans to side with the Stars, even if the Stars are in the wrong.